the game later. Just your thoughts about Luka and everything around the trade.
Very excited to get Luka Doncic as a Laker. But I'd be remiss not to say that I have incredible empathy for every single person involved in this from both teams. I've lived it. I've been part of trades. I've seen teammates get traded. For both teams, there's a little bit of a loss. And, for our group, getting to coach AD, getting to coach Max, Jalen was incredible. It's obviously a very tough decision. And AD in particular, someone that for a superstar to just kind of embrace a first-year rookie head coach, and it was incredible to be able to work with him and see how he plays on a nightly basis, and obviously with Max and Jalen investing a lot in their development. And then for our group, it's those guys are brothers to them, and it's tough, and I have a great deal of empathy for that. But we're excited to have Luka.
And just to follow up on Luka, he noted your time together, obviously just the 13 games, but the respect that he gained for you. Going on your podcast, how would you summarize that relationship and how excited you are to start to figure out how to play or coach him and put pieces around him?
Yeah. Luke and I were teammates. I would say we had a friendship, mutual respect. You then have to figure out how to have a working relationship as player coach, and both of him and I are committed to that. And I had spent about an hour with him on Sunday after he got to the hotel from Dallas, and had a great conversation with him. Have had a subsequent conversation, so excited to build that, and that's different than just going on someone's podcast. I think the biggest thing is Luka knows me, and he knows how I operate. And that's a good thing. It gives us both a head start.
So now Luka and Maxey at least makes it 4 guys you were teammates with during your career. I don't know if you ever played with Markieff. Were you ever teammates?
No.
Okay,
no.
So 4 out of 5 of the guys the team's traded for have been former teammates of yours. And Rob today told us that every roster decision that you guys make going forward is going to be to fit your vision as a coach. Mm-hmm. Did you envision that level of involvement in kind of, it doesn't stop at being a coach for this team, kind of really being a stakeholder and kind of the entirety of what the Lakers are trying to do when you took this job?
I envisioned it. I certainly hoped for it. It's something that we all talked about during the interview process, both with Rob and with Jeannie. And just understanding that for us as a Lakers organization to function at a high level, we needed to have alignment and synergy between ownership, the front office, and coaching. And that's not to say it's always going to be perfect, and that's not to say there's not incredibly difficult decisions to make. But that has happened, and going forward, that it certainly gives you confidence as a coach.
BJ Matthews from Peach Basket. So I had a question. This morning, Rob Pelinka had a vision that with you as the roster construction, build a team that's really kind of what you want. What type of players are you kind of looking for to really build your roster from the future and here on out?
Yeah, again, I've been asked this before, and I think you can just reference the first episode of the Mind the Game podcast. Very simple. And in all seriousness, that's not to say the guys that we've traded this year aren't representative of that. They're again, this is not 2K. This is not fantasy basketball. We recognize that this has any decision you make as an organization has an outsized impact on a lot of people, and we're very sensitive to that.
Speaking of your podcast, I was recently listening to your analysis of Luka, and you're discussing his constant changing of pace. How do you envision him and LeBron complementing each other on the court?
Yeah, two guys who have a high level of basketball intelligence that I'm very confident, whether it's playing in a 2-man game, a 3-man game, playing minutes without each other, they're going to be productive and they're going to excel. I think for both those guys, they have a killer's mentality, and that's exciting.
JJ, got a couple for you first. You mentioned in an interview with Ali that you found out about the trade on Saturday. I guess when exactly on Saturday did you find out? And what was your initial reaction when Rob or Gina, whoever told you that trading for Luka was even a possibility?
The initial reaction, there's always duality to difficult things, and any decision of any sort of importance is going to have consequences, and the consequences of us making this decision is you lose two guys that were awesome for us this year, and AD in particular, who has been awesome now for 6 years with the Lakers and helped win a championship. And that's, first year, that's hard to sort of process. And then there's the excitement of getting a Luka. Just in terms of Saturday, it was, look, I to tell you guys all the time, I talk to Rob about everything. We're always talking not just about transactions, but about everything. And I do have an ability to focus my bandwidth on what needs to be done. And so my focus all day Saturday was on the game, just knowing that there was a possibility that I would have to get back to the hotel to make phone calls, but not even something that I thought of most of the day. The focus was on trying to beat the Knicks.
And the second one, you guys have been a top 5 defense for about a 2-month stretch. Max and AD were significant parts of that. Obviously, getting Vando back, DFS, they're big parts of it. Those two were very key to that. What needs to happen for you guys, I guess, to sustain that in light of those, in light of the trades?
Yeah, I really mean this. I don't think it's just like defensively it's going to be a challenge to figure out. It's going to be a challenge offensively. Like a team is a very it's an organism, and it functions in a specific way, and you can input certain things and the organism is going to react and function a different way, and both good and bad. And so as a staff, as a group, we have to figure out how to be at our best on both ends of the floor. And certainly losing AD and Max, that's going to require more from Doe. That's going to require more from Vando. That's going to require more from Gabe. That's going to require more from Jackson. So it's not that those guys have to do anything outside of what they already do, but their defensive importance has increased.
JJ, along those lines, you guys lost 2 starters in the trade, and I would say your 2 best defensive starters. I assume Luka is going to step into the starting lineup, but does this trade potentially open up the possibility of shuffling the starting lineup in a greater sense to try and, you just mentioned several guys who have been coming off the bench defensively, maybe sliding 1 or 2 of those guys in, and obviously the trade deadline could affect that depending on how things go the next couple of days.
Certainly, we'll look at everything. We're trying to put the best group out there, not just in the starting lineup, but what works best for the group. And sometimes that may mean bringing a guy off the bench. Sometimes that may mean having him start the game. We're going to look at everything and we'll figure it out. And again, this is my first time going through it as a coach. We've made 2 trades already, and the last month and change since we traded for Doe has been a little bit of retooling. Something of this magnitude requires more retooling. And I've always said in-season trades are really hard, and it's really hard to judge a trade. And I would say this for both teams. It's really hard to judge a trade on that season. It's oftentimes the next season where you really get a sense of what that trade means. That's not to say I'm not committed to doing everything in my power to hopefully win a championship this year, but it is going to require a lot from everybody, coaching staff and players, to figure out how to make this group this year as good as we can.
JJ, what's the process for I mean, you've hinted at it, but for yourself, for the guys that have been here and been like pouring into a version of the team that no longer exists to shift gears, is there like a mourning in that? Like
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's that like?
I'm sure every guy's experiencing a different emotion. I can only speak to my emotions. And, you know, there's that balance that I was talking about with Kobe and with Dave is there's the empathy portion and understanding that guys are going to feel a certain way, and there's a grieving process. There's an excitement and a rebirth process. There's all of these things, and those things take time. We're not going to wave a magic wand and say, we're good today. Like it takes time. The important thing is that the mission has not changed, and how we go about doing that mission has not changed.
How have your conversations with LeBron been about this?
Great. Yeah.
JJ, understanding your point about midseason trades being hard, what are your expectations specifically with LeBron and Luka on how short or long of a process it will be for them to blend their talents together?
I'm confident that we can figure out how to blend their talents together in a positive way in a very short amount of time. Yeah.
JJ, just for tonight's game, obviously the Clippers not concerned about
I
any
got to
of this.
coach a game tonight. Yep.
Yeah. Thinking with Max out specifically, how much Gabe, how much Vando, and then kind of using the two-way bigs, you would assume behind Jackson. How's that going to work out tonight?
We'll continue to give different lineups looks, both with a traditional big and both in small ball.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Let's get ready for HoopJab.